All right, everybody, welcome back. Good afternoon. Hope you guys are still having a good Tuesday. And we got another training camp off-season positional battle to talk about. We've got another point of contention with these 2026 Seattle Seahawks. And the first couple of videos I did in this series, we talked about safety. We talked about cornerback. So now we're going to pivot over to the offense. And a lot of you guys probably already know where this is going. A lot of you guys probably already know who we're going to talk about. No discussion of Seattle Seahawks offseason positional battles would be complete without talking a little bit about right guard. And this might be the one that people are most excited for because as someone who interacts with this fan base a lot, I can definitely sense that people are kind of eager to move off of what we have at right guard. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. So we're talking about right guard. That's Anthony Bradford. And he's not listed as a backup right guard at this moment on the ESPN depth chart, but Beau would be the guy that is theoretically going to compete for that job. I don't think Christian Haynes has much of a shot anymore. Maybe Cable Do, but I don't know if Cable Do even is a right guard. I view him as a little bit more of an athletic interior guy. So we're really talking about Beau here. I mean, he's the rookie, Bradford's the veteran. It kind of matches up with the conversations we've been having over the last couple of days. So this is one where I definitely think that a battle in training camp is on the table, and I wouldn't be shocked if that battle went either way. I think that there is room for either outcome here. However, as I was the last couple of days, I do suspect that this team, especially in the state that they're in right now, is going to value continuity and experience. So let's start with Anthony Bradford. Let's talk about Bradford a little bit here. There's a couple things going on here. Number one, as much as people are probably sick of talking about this, Anthony Bradford is still a work in progress, right? He's 25 years old. He's nowhere near his peak as a player. Players typically peak from like 27 to 30. He barely played in college. Remember, at LSU, he had like a season and a half, not even, of starts. And he was put into a situation in Seattle where he kind of had to immediately be a contributor and be a starter when that was clearly not the plan. That was not the right idea to bring Anthony Bradford along. The right approach would have been to let him sit for probably 2 years and then become a starter last year. So on some level, we've already kind of messed this up, but that doesn't mean he can't get better now that he's had time in the NFL and been coached up and had the opportunity to work with different offensive coordinators and with different players alongside him on the offensive line. So you've got that going on here. And the other thing going on here, another thing, the experience, right? Whatever you want to say about Bradford, he's played a lot of football these last 3 years. He's got 38 starts. And if we scroll down here, 2,277 offensive snaps. So this is a guy who has been on the football field constantly for these Seahawks. That is valuable. And remember, if Bradford starts in 2026, that means we're returning all 5 starters from last year on the offensive line, which is very valuable. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So Download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So you've got that element at play as well. And the final thing that I want to mention here is, well, okay, not final, but one of the final things that I want to bring up here would be, this is contract year Anthony Bradford. Bradford is in the final year of his deal. So he is heavily motivated to put his best foot forward and give everything he has for a good 2026. Because if he has a good year, he could definitely get $20 to $25 million on a contract next year. So there is a motivation here that didn't necessarily exist in the last few years that could spur him to greater heights. So you put him out there, you get that advantage. And you also have the fact that Bradford is a more talented and athletic and able-bodied player than Beau Stevens. And it's not really that close. Stevens is not really a stellar athlete, and I think he'd even acknowledge that. Bradford is a freak athlete. He hasn't necessarily been able to utilize it to the best of his abilities yet, but there is a reason why he was a fourth-round pick, even though he didn't play very much in college, while Beau Stevens was a fifth-round pick when he played a lot in college. So when you throw that onto the fire here, you've got a lot of reasons why it's going to be Anthony Bradford. So I do believe that is likely the way this ends up. And obviously, that is something that I'm okay with because we won the Super Bowl last year and had a very good offense with Anthony Bradford starting all 17 games. So whatever little you may think of Anthony Bradford, he clearly isn't that bad for us to be able to have all that success with him. And I also think there's some other stuff going on here. Like, you look at the last 3 years, he's had a different offensive line coach each of those 3 years. This is the first time he's had a second year with an offensive line coach or an offensive coordinator. Those things matter. And the other element at play here, and I know I'm talking a lot about things in Bradford's favor, but I think most of the stuff is in Bradford's favor. I think this team likes him. I think this team thinks he's a really good player, or at the very least, a player that brings enough to the table to where the stuff that he takes off is something they're willing to live with. There were games last year where Mike Macdonald came out and said he thought that Anthony Bradford was our best offensive lineman in that game. He has a tremendously good highlight reel. It's just his lowlights are particularly low. So all that stuff is working in Bradford's favor. Now, I say all that, and I think all that stuff matters, but it doesn't change one undeniable fact. Anthony Bradford is not very good. Overall, yes, he does have good plays. He does have good moments. He can do things that most other offensive linemen cannot do, but the body of work is very substandard. And I know Pro Football Focus doesn't get everything right, but I mean, there's a reason why they grade him so poorly. It's not because they're making up numbers here. And you can go back on previous years and, I mean, consistently, he is not good. He is often bad. Sometimes he's even unplayably bad. So there's not much getting around that. And Beau Stevens could be better than that. He could be. He's an unknown. He hasn't played in the NFL yet. And that quality is going to make this at least a little bit interesting. No matter what else I can say in Bradford's favor, and I can say plenty of things in his favor, Stevens is a little bit undefined right now, and on some level that works in his favor. So you've got Beau Stevens, a lot of experience in college, 41 games played. I don't think he made every start, but he made a lot of starts, way more than Bradford did in college. So he's got experience too. And generally speaking, in that Iowa offensive line, where granted, it's a little bit easier to play offensive line when you play for the Iowa Hawkeyes because of their system and the fact that they are a reliable kind of assembly line of quality offensive linemen over these last several years that don't necessarily make it big in the NFL. The guy is graded out phenomenally. He had some of the best grades of any guard in college football last year. 87.7, 92.5 pass blocking grade. This is somebody who was basically a lockdown player for the Hawkeyes last year, and he was good in previous years as well. Maybe not this good, but he has been a good, reliable player for Iowa for a while now. And when you combine those two things together, the experience and the high level of play, you do have a foundation that could win a starting job in the NFL over a veteran, especially when the argument you could make for Stevens, I think, is that there's probably more reliability there. You're not going to have the high highs. You're not going to have the highlight reel blocks that Bradford does, but you may not have the cataclysmic whiffs and misses and mistakes that Bradford makes. And this is why Bradford is so hated. His mistakes end up on a low light reel. He has several plays where he just gets completely humiliated and people latch onto that. But it's not completely unfair because the plays did happen. Stevens probably won't have plays like that, or at least not as many. He's going to be a little bit more even keeled. He's going to be somebody that kind of hangs out in the middle and chills out and is okay from snap to snap. He may not drive guys out of the hole like we see Bradford do. He may not have the leg drive of Bradford, but he's not going to completely whiff on a Milton Williams or a Kobe Turner right in front of him, or blow a stunt or a twist. So that's where things get a little bit interesting. The final thing that works in Stevens' favor is money, because Stevens is obviously going to be very cheap this year. Cap hit is basically nothing for 2026. Bradford is in the final year of his rookie deal, so he's getting some pretty significant money this year. So the thing to keep in mind is that if Stevens wins the starting job, Bradford is probably gone, either cut or traded, because I don't think you want to have a backup guard on your team making that kind of money. I know it's not a huge amount of money, but it's significant. So Bradford could just go at that point to another team and Stevens would just be the starter. And that would save this team a decent chunk of money. I understand that they don't necessarily need money, but remember, cap rolls over, so that could help them afford things next year, right? And I do think you could trade Bradford and get something. He is somebody who has played a lot of football these last 3 years, and he did start 17 games for a good offensive line and a team that won the Super Bowl last year. That is going to count for something. I do think you could get something for him. This is a very talented player at the end of the day. Somebody's going to want this. Somebody's going to try to mold this, especially in a contract year. Okay, so ultimately, I imagine that Bradford's going to win this out. I have a hard time believing this team is going to want to mess with a unit up front that won the Super Bowl last year and in the postseason was able to be pretty dominant, especially with their rushing attack late in the season and then in the postseason. I imagine they want to preserve that, especially because they lost a lot at running back and they're trying to keep some continuity together with that running game. But it's not out of the question. Stevens could be a more even-keeled player by day one. These Iowa Hawkeye offensive linemen tend to kind of come out of the box ready to go. So don't be shocked. All right, so let me know what you guys think about this one. I just think that in battles like this, the veteran almost always wins out. And you got to do something really special as the rookie if you want to beat him out. And I don't know if Stevens is going to do that. I think Stevens' thing is that he won't be extraordinary. He'll just be kind of okay. A lot of Iowa offensive linemen kind of occupy that area, and I think Stevens will be one of them as well. But 2027, Stevens could definitely be the guy. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. And at least one more video later today.